Hello everyone, my name's Erica Taylor. I'm a trainer here at Jade. Thank you for joining today's session, Supercharging Your Legal Research. I acknowledge that I'm hosting this webinar from the lands of the Darug and Gadigal people. I also acknowledge the traditional custodians of the various lands on which you all work today and the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people participating in this webinar. I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and celebrate the diversity of Aboriginal peoples and their ongoing cultures and connections to the lands and waters of Australia. Welcome. I'm really excited to be presenting this webinar to you today to show you how you can supercharge your legal research using the Jade platform. I'm going to turn off my video now just to preserve bandwidth. But as we go through today's session, if you do have any questions or comments, please feel free to pop them in the chat. We'll be keeping an eye on the chat window. And so today's training is for those of you who may be new to Jade and not familiar with the features and functionality of the platform. But if you are a regular Jade user, it will also be of use to you. I'm sure you'll pick up some tips and tricks as we go along. And just to give you an indication of how we'll be running the session today, we'll be looking at how to search for cases and legislation using the search box. We'll also be looking at how to use the Citator tool within Jade and the advanced search function, and doing some straightforward Boolean searches using the search box as well. We'll also take a look at how you can create your own online library of annotations and share those annotations with your colleagues. And we'll look at how you can check your documents, whether they be submissions or letters of advice for citations, and ensure the citations you are using are correct. So without further ado, we'll move into drilling down into the Jade platform. You may be aware that Jade is available on a free basis, and at Barnet we're very passionate about facilitating open access to law, and so we do provide primary materials, cases and legislation for free on our Jade website. We also have a suite of professional tools, and you can see I'm logged in as a Jade professional user here, which have been designed to assist practitioners in gaining efficiencies in their day-to-day research. So where I'm showing you a tool that falls within the professional package, I will point that out. When you first log into Jade, you're taken to the list of High Court cases, with the most recent case displaying at the top of the list. So we can see yesterday's decision is sitting here at the top of the list. And at Jade, we upload decisions in real time. So this decision from yesterday would have been uploaded within a matter of minutes of it being provided to us at Jade. You can use Jade as a browsing service. So you can browse your judgments by topic, date, by court, etc. And you can also browse the legislation by legislature. One useful thing to do when you are using Jade is to hop over to our help page. And then you can see at the bottom here, we've got a link to a document which shows you the coverage of case law by jurisdiction within Australia. So it's just good to familiarise yourself with our coverage, and you can see the dates of the earliest decisions that we have in Jade. And we do have quite a variety of tribunal decisions available within Jade. We also publish all of the decisions from IP Australia in relation to trademarks, patents and copyright. So looking at our browser, we can browse these decisions by year or A to Z, browse them according to their case names. But the real power from Jade comes by using the Omnibox, our search box. We use natural language and predictive text. And so you simply need to, when you are looking for a case, just start typing the name of the case. And then you'll be given a list of cases that match your search criteria. So in this instance, I want to navigate my way to the High Court decision in Pryor and Mole. And to do that, I just click on the case title And I'm taken to the full text of the judgment as is published by the court itself. So we can see that this is not the authorised report of this decision. But if you look over in the case trace box on the right-hand side, you'll see that in addition to the medium neutral citation, we give you all other citations where this particular decision has been reported. So we give you the authorised report citation and then a specialised report citation there as well. Also within the case trace box, we can see the litigation history of this particular case. So we've got a link to the decision at first instance, and then we've got a link to the first appellate decision. And if we open that in a new tab, for any decision that's been appealed, you will see a yellow banner at the top of the document that links you through to the appellate decision. And that's just a really good visual prompt. So as you are browsing decisions in Jade, you can see if the decision you've landed on has been appealed. For all jurisdictions other than the High Court, that banner will populate at the top of the decision once the appellate decision has been published. For matters where an application for special leave is made to the High Court, that banner will populate when the application is filed with the High Court. So for example, if an application for special leave had been made this week to appeal this decision, I would be seeing a file reference number from the High Court here in the link. And that's because, as I'll show you, we can link you through to the documents filed with the High Court in an application for special leave and also transcripts as well. So going back to our decision, we can see in the case trace box that we have 56 cases which cite this decision, and that it cites 23 cases and 5 pieces of statutory material. We can see some of the cited sections of this decision here, and we can also see that the most recent citation to our primary case of Pryor and Mole is a Supreme Court decision in WA of this year. And I can drill down into all of this information by clicking on the citation report link. So at the bottom of every decision in Jade, you'll see a citation report. That sets out the litigation history of the matter, the cases citing our decision, the cases cited by it, and the legislation cited by it. Now, as I mentioned, with matters where an application for special leave to the High Court is made, we can actually expand this table and view the full chronology. And so you can see that's expanded that window. And now, should I wish to view the written submissions of the appellant in the application for special leave, I can open that link in a new tab. And that's going to take me to the High Court's website, and I can view those documents. And we do find that our practitioners find that functionality very useful because together with the documents filed and the transcripts, for example, you can see here, this is a transcript denoted by the citation that we give for it, that helps put the decision itself in better context. So looking at the list of cases citing our decision, this list populates in reverse chronological order. So we can see that most recent decision of the Supreme Court of Western Australia here at the top. And if I want to view how Woodward cites Pryor and Mole, I just click on the link to the 2 citations, and then I can see here the citations to Pryor and Mole within that document. And quite often your first citation will be the case as it's listed in the list of cases cited in that particular judgment. Where you see an A next to the court for any decision, that just denotes that that decision has been appealed. And I can manipulate the way I view this table by clicking on the court column. So if I wish to group the cases by the courts in which they were heard, I can click on the court column there. And so from here, I can quickly and easily see that there are 3 other High Court decisions which cite Pryor and Mole. I could also group the cases in reverse chronological, in chronological order from the earliest case. And I can also change the table to view the cases which contain the most citations to Pryor and Mole. And you'll notice with Jade that unlike some of the other case citation databases that you use, we do not give signals to cases. So unlike, say, for example, CaseBase, where you might see a signal that's been applied to a case to show that it's been distinguished, we do not do that within Jade. And that's because we believe that any judicial pronouncement about a case has importance. And it's really for the practitioner to decide how to treat a particular authority in the context of their own research. Quite often those signals are given at a very high level, but we give you the ability to analyse citations back to your primary case at a paragraph level. So here I can see that the case with the most citations back to Pryor and Moll is New South Wales and Smith. And again, I can just click on that and review those citations in the pop-up window. And my citations are highlighted for me just for ease of reference. So scrolling down further, we look now to cases cited by our decision. So as we'd expect, we see the decision at first instance and citations to the first appellate decision there. And I can view the paragraphs of those cases which are cited. The paragraphs to these cases which are cited will also be hyperlinked in the body of the decision itself above. And then at the very bottom of the citation report, I can see what legislation has been cited, and then I can open up those sections by clicking on the links. It's important to note that anytime you click on a section reference within Jade, it's going to take you to the current version of that section, but we can do point-in-time searches with legislation, and we'll have a look at that shortly. So jumping back up to the top of the case, on the left-hand side here, we've got some tools that enable you to navigate your way through the document. We've got our Find tool, which is excellent because it allows you to find multiple terms at one time, and those terms will be highlighted together. And that's just quite useful because you don't have to search for one term, find it, and then search for another term like you would in a PDF document. The other great thing about the Find tool is, let's say we're looking for the words apprehension and detention, and then we're looking for the word intoxicated. I can see those terms highlighted for me, but if I just want to really focus on the parts of the decision that contain one or both of those terms, a feature available through Jade Professional is the Focus Match feature. So you'll see by clicking on that Focus Match button, I've separated the document, if you like, to show me those paragraphs which contain one or both of those terms. Another tool available on the left-hand side here is the Document Navigation tool. Now, when I click on the Document Navigation tool in the first instance, it's going to give me an index to each of the judgments, so I can see to which judge the judgment belongs, and I can see the headings used within that particular judgment. And where I'm looking at a case with quite a lengthy index, if you like Project Blue Sky, where there, it's a significant judgment and there are lots of headings used, I can search the index to find particular paragraphs with headings containing keywords or terms. But that does just search the index. So if you wanted to do a full text search on excess of power, you would use the magnifying glass. So that's quite useful just to get an overview before you dive into the decision. But let's say I've identified this case as being potentially relevant to my research, and I really want to get to the key paragraphs in this decision. I can go over to the right-hand side and click on the Most Cited link. And so what that does is Jade looks at the citations back to our decision. So the number of citations, not the number of cases citing, which is that 56, but the number of actual citations to the decision, And I can see here that paragraph 4 is the most cited paragraph of prior and mole. So then I can jump into that paragraph, review that paragraph, and then if I want to view those 25 citations to paragraph 4, I click on the plus button. And so that's showing me that the most recent citation to this paragraph is a 2020 decision of the Federal Circuit Court. And I can see the citations highlighted there for me as I scroll through. And again, this list populates in reverse chronological order, so you're always going to get that most recent case citing your paragraph first. Within the Jade clip, I can do a number of things using the links at the top. So let's say, for example, I've got 21 documents here, but I really just want to view those cases of any appellate court which has cited paragraph 4 of prior and mole. I can click on the appellate only link, and I'm now down to 8 cases, all from appellate courts, and again listed in reverse chronological order. So this is the most recent appellate court decision which cites our paragraph. Now, this may be a paragraph that's particularly relevant to an ongoing matter I'm working on, and I want to set up a current awareness alert. The current awareness alerts through Jade are really second to none because they're very simple to set, and Jade does the legwork for you in terms of setting your alert, and then you'll receive cases in your inbox anytime this particular paragraph of this case is cited. So to set up the alert, you simply click on the alert link. I can see I'm looking for citations of this case, paragraph 4, click save, and then that's done. So if, for example, tomorrow the New South Wales Court of Appeal hands down a decision citing paragraph 4 of prior and mole, the following day I will receive an alert in my inbox with a link to that New South Wales Court of Appeal case. I also have the ability to run a keyword search through the list of cases cited within this paragraph. This is one of the ways of getting to Citator, where you are doing your research progressively and refining your searches as you conduct your research. So I've come across this paragraph, it's relevant to my research, and now I want to run a keyword search on this list of results. To do that, I click the Citator link, and you'll see that's taken me to the Citator section of the Jade website. So in the first instance, I'm seeing the same list of cases as I saw in the Jade clip. And then to run the keyword search within this list of cases, I click on Edit this search. And then text in the citing case, I'm looking for the words idle wondering. I've put those terms in inverted commas because there's more than one word. And you'll notice on the right-hand side here, we have a drop-down list. This drop-down list shows you the range of metadata that we collect from the decisions we take into Jade. And I'll show you in what context that might be relevant in a Citator search when we look at legislation, for example. But for the purposes of this example, I just want to draw your attention to the difference between whole document and whole document unstemmed. So the default setting is whole document. And that means that notwithstanding I've typed idle wondering in inverted commas, Jade is going to look for variations of the word idle and wandering. So wonder, for example, and it's going to pick up all of the variations of these two words that it can find. If I want to force Jade to only look for the word or phrase as I've typed it, then I select whole document unstemmed, and Jade will not look for variations of those particular words. So just an important thing to note, especially where you are looking for terms of art, for example, when you're searching text in the citing case. If I want to, I can set my collections. At the moment, it's set to all courts, but I could select, say, the High Court and maybe we'll say the Federal Circuit Court, for example, if I wanted to. But we'll just run the search across all collections. And you can see you've also got the ability to limit your date range, etc. So if I click on filter, I've then gone from 21 cases citing paragraph 4 of prior and mole to 4 cases which cite that paragraph and contain the words idle wandering. So that's a really useful way of refining your search results, running that search using the Citator tool within the clip. So if we just go back to the case itself and paragraph 4 will pop up in the clip again, and we'll look at the visualize link. Within the suite of Jade professional tools, there is a set of visualization tools, and these tools enable you to analyze these very text-rich results in a different way, so in a visual or graphical way. And so let's say within this citation I had over 300 citations to this paragraph, or I don't want to scroll through the list of text. I just want to quickly and easily see whether or not there are any High Court decisions which cite this paragraph of prior and mole. I can do that by clicking on the visualize link. And this is going to model the citations of this paragraph for me. And if you look to the right-hand side, you'll see that each of the different circles represent a different court or document. And so I can see that the most recent High Court case which cites prior and mole is Clubb and Edwards. And if I hover over the line joining the two cases and click on it, I can then view those citations in my pop-up window. And then I can also view what the relationships between the various cases citing prior and mole are in terms of shared citations as well. So as I said, this feature, the visualization features, are part of the professional platform, and they are a really useful way of analysing what can otherwise be very dense reams of text that we're all used to reading through. But as a starting point, as a jumping off point with your research, that visualization tool is really handy. As you scroll through cases and legislation in Jade, as I said, you've got pop-up links to cases and legislation cited. But again, just be aware, in particular with legislation, that when you do click on the link, it's going to take you to the current version, not the version that was relevant to the particular matter. And just before we leave cases, a couple of other things to note. You've got your index that follows you as you go through your decision. And when you are searching for cases in Jade, you don't just need to search by, or you are able to search by case name, as I've shown you, or any of the citations for the case that are given. So you might use Jade as an adjunct to some of your other research resources. Let's say, for example, you are starting off with some commentary and a paragraph of a case is referenced within that commentary but not extracted in full. You could type your citation in that's given in the commentary, and then we can type @ and in square brackets 4, and then we can just pop up that particular paragraph from the Omni box. And again, I can see what paragraph I'm looking at, all of the citations, and I can also expand the catchwords as well to view those there. So that's just a useful little tip to note if you do integrate your research across a number of different legal platforms. So as part of the suite of visualization tools within Jade when it comes to cases, we also have 3 other tools that are available to you. So just looking at a different example, you access those tools by clicking on the visualizations icon on the left-hand side, and you can see I've got similarity, precedent tracker, and parallel citations. The similarity tool allows me to analyze cases similar to mine But that similarity isn't based on shared fact scenarios. It's based on shared catchwords and shared citations. So here I can see the similarity that's been modelled shows me that the case most similar to mine identified by Jade is this case of Kenman and Candy and the Registrar of Trademarks. And that's been highlighted as number 2. So if I hover over the purple ball, I can see that case. Again, you can see which courts the decisions belong to by looking at the legend. And I can see what percentage of catchwords all of the cases have in common. To view how these 2 cases are similar, I just need to click on either the 1 or the 2 and drag it closer to the other button. And I can promise you that this tool is not designed this way to be annoying, but because people far smarter than I am have developed it so that it can quickly and easily identify similarities in your case. So sometimes to get your circles close together, you might need to be a bit patient, and it's always good to just let them settle as you're moving them around. There we go, we should be able to catch that there. So you'll see they come to a standstill. Now the reason why I want to do that is, I'll just click outside of that, is then I want to take my mouse and draw, let's turn off the catchword shading. Sorry. Sometimes, and depending on your internet connection, the catchword shading can affect highlighting the similarities. But essentially what we want to do is draw a box around our 2 circles so we can view the similarities. And I'm going to pick up probably more cases than I want. But we'll see if this works. Oh, no, it doesn't want to play ball today, unfortunately. Just bear with me for 1 second and we'll give that page a refresh to see if we can get it working. Okay. I'm sure we've all experienced the difficulties of suburban internet connections over the last 15 months. So it can be a bit tricky. I might just look at another case and see if we can quickly demonstrate that feature, because it really is a great tool to use, again, to give you a visual analysis of the information that we capture within our citation reports. And you will have seen on the left-hand side when I clicked the visualizations icon that we also have 2 other tools available to you, which are a precedent tracker and also a parallel citations visualization tool as well. Okay. All right, I suspect I'm going to have the same difficulty here. Yes, okay. That just seems to be because of the catchword shading there that I cannot turn off. But what I might do, oh, here we go. I've been able to capture my number 1 case of ASIC and Helicar and another case, not number 2, but I can expand that out to capture number 2. And when I release the mouse button, it's going to load the commonality of those 4 cases. So I can see I'm looking at Dancy and the Queen, Adams and the Director of Fair Work Building Industry, Chong and CC Containers, and my case of ASIC and Helicar. So what's the commonality between these 4? Well, they all have the tag of evidence, and all of these cases cite one of these authorities, or each of these authorities, I should say. So then if I want to see how these authorities have been discussed by the different courts here, I can click on one of them, let's say Cool, and I can see that it's cited in 3 cases, so ASIC and Helicar in 2012, the Victorian Court of Appeal in 2015, and the Full Court of the Federal Court in 2017. And I can scroll through and read those citations side by side, so I can see how that case of cool has been applied in each of those cases. So a really powerful visual tool to conduct that analysis without having to go through the citation report. Of course, if your preference is to read the citations in the citation report, that's of course fine as well. I won't spend too much time on precedent tracker and parallel citations. What we'll do after the session is send you, everyone who's attending today will send you a copy of our how to use visualizations document, which will allow you to gain an understanding of those tools in a little bit more detail. But essentially, the precedent tracker maps out the cases cited by and citing your primary decision, and it extracts the citations and provides you with enough context so that you can decide whether the case has been merely considered or if it's been applied, approved, or distinguished. And then we have the parallel citations tool, which allows you to view a map of subsequent cases that share at least 2 or more citations with your current case, regardless of whether those cases actually cite your current case. So really useful tools. And as I said, at the end of this session, we'll send that document out to all participants. So I just want to move on to legislation now. Searching for legislation within Jade is just as easy as searching for cases. So for example, I might be looking for section 58 of the Trademarks Act. I can see I've got 2 options in my drop-down list here. So I want to view the section in the first instance. I'm not familiar with the section. I want to read it in full before I start looking at any cases which cite it. So to view the section, I click on the Act, and I can read that section in the window. And then if I want to go and read the section as it sits within the Act, so I can read the sections around it, I just click on the Act title. So that's going to take me straight to section 58. And I can see that there are 3,283 citations to that section. And I can see that there are over 500 citations to section 58A. The Jade clips within legislation are only available via a professional subscription. You do, as a free user, have limited use of Jade clips within cases, but the ones to legislation are part of the professional subscription. So the clips work in the same way in legislation as they do in cases. And to view the citations to section 58A, for example, I just open up that clip and it's going to give me that list of cases. And again, I've got the most recent decision at the top of the list. I've got the same tools and functionality as I did with the clips in the cases. So I can filter my results, set up an alert, run a keyword search through this list of cases, and also visualize these results as well. Where a section has subsections and a specific subsection has been cited, I can narrow my results to look for cases citing a specific subsection. So for example, if I'm just wanting cases which cite subsection 2B, I can narrow my list of results by clicking on 2B. When you are creating alerts from the Jade clip, it's always my recommendation to set them at the high level section number and not a subsection level, just to make sure you capture everything. And of course, you know, we're all human, and sometimes within judgments we see that there may be an inadvertent space in between the subsection reference, and that might trip up that case being picked up in a subsection alert. So as a belt and braces approach, my advice is always to set your legislation alerts at that high level section number. And looking at legislation, we can see we always know exactly where we are within the Act because we've got the information here at the top, and we can navigate our way through the Act by using the index on the left-hand side. And one of or a more recent feature we've introduced into Jade in particular with the most popularly cited legislation, both at a Commonwealth level and in the states and territories, is we've hyperlinked the defined terms within the Act. So for example, you can see that geographical indication here is highlighted in green. If I click on that, I'll get a pop-up of the definition of geographical indication. So it saves you from having to constantly scroll up to the dictionary or, you know, have the piece of legislation you're looking at open it in two windows, one at the definitions section and then one in the substantive body of the legislation. So you will see that in a lot of popularly cited acts, and it's a feature that will be rolled out across all legislation eventually. So that's just a useful thing to note. And just in relation to interpretation, if you look at the interpretation section itself, you'll see that every defined term has a Jade clip. So if I want to see what sections is the term authorized user or does the term authorized user appear, I just click on the Jade clip next to that section, and that's going to give me the list of other sections which contain that particular term. With heavily cited acts such as the Trademarks Act, the Fair Work Act, the Corps Act, etc., sometimes the rendering of the results within the Jade clips can take a little bit of time. So that's just something to bear in mind. And of course, you've got your hyperlinks to other legislation referenced within the Act and the individual sections as well. Jade clips in legislation not only capture cases which cite a particular provision of legislation, but also other legislation that references the particular section you're looking at. So that is incorporated within those Jade clips. So when you navigate your way to the whole of the Act rather than just a specific section, as we've travelled down the path of going to a specific section, but if I was to just click on Trademarks Act, I'd be taken to the Act. I can see the currency information, and again, I've got the ability to search through that index for keywords and phrases, for example, there. And again, we've got the magnifying glass. If you're interested, you can see which sections of the Trademarks Act have been most cited. So I've got section 44 is the #1 cited section of the Trademarks Act. And we also have a case trace box for legislation. So that shows you the currency information again, and the most recent case citing the Trademarks Act is this full court decision of the Federal Court of this year. And at the bottom, you get a citation report as well. But of course, bearing in mind, because this is the heavily cited Act, if you wanted to view all of the citations to the Trademarks Act, you'd need to use the Citator tool. So we've looked at navigating our way to a specific section because we need to gain an understanding of the section, what it's about, and then drilling down into the cases citing it, looking at the cases in the Jade clip. But let's say, for example, I already know the section I'm looking for back to front. I don't particularly want to go down, spend that time going to the section in the Act, clicking on the Jade clip. I just want to find cases which cite my section and which contain a keyword or phrase. That's where you can jump directly into the Citator tool. So here I might be looking for section 5F of the Civil Liability Act. So I can select, I'm after the New South Wales Act, so I can select that. And then the text in the citing case I'm looking for is workplace injury. I can run my search from there. And this is where you might find some of the other metadata comes in handy. For example, you might be having a matter go before a particular judge, and one of the issues is a contravention of Section 5F of the Civil Liability Act. I could, instead of just setting a keyword or phrase search, I could say I'm looking for the decisions of Justice Fullerton, for example, and then I would select judge. Or I might be looking for cases involving a particular party, and I could select parties. And then we can just click on search there and get our list of results. You'll notice that as I'm using the Citator tool, I've got the recent searches that I've run showing in the left-hand side here, and whether or not they're run directly from Citator or via the Citator link in the clip. So if for whatever reason you lose your connection or your browser crashes, you can always go back and click on the search again to rerun it in the recent searches list. What you can also do from this search is save it. So we've gone back to our search for paragraph 4 in prior and mole. And let's say now I want to save my search and turn that into an alert. So anytime a decision citing paragraph 4 and containing the words idle wondering is published, I want to be notified. Simply do that by clicking save this search. You can give your search a name. And then just by selecting email and set it to once a day, click save. Your alert's created. You don't need to do anything else. Jade will do all the heavy lifting for you in finding any cases that match your search. And you've got the ability to save your searches from Citator and the other ways that we can run searches as well. And two of those other ways are using the Omnibox. And this is a really great starting point if you're beginning your research from a very broad question. So let's say I'm looking for cases that deal with motor vehicle accident and personal injury. I set that as my search terms and I hit the enter key. So Jade is searching the entire corpus. So I can see I've got South Australian, New South Wales, ACT decisions, etc. So I've got over 3,000 results that match my search query. I can use the refined search results tools on the left-hand side to drill down into this search a little bit further. So I can see I've got a couple of Court of Appeal decisions in New South Wales. I just want to focus on that as my collection. You can type the full name of the court or the acronym and click filter now. And then I want to find cases where post-traumatic stress disorder is a subset of the injury. And then I've narrowed down my list to 29 cases. And then I can further chip away at my results. We give you a mini viewer, which enables you to view the citation within the context of your results. So if, for example, you were browsing your results and then we wanted to narrow the search further by looking for economic loss, we can do that as we go through. And now we're down to 22 results. So a really great way if you're starting from a broad question or proposition and you want to chip away at your results. And again, you can save that search just in the same way you saved your Citator search. Conversely to that, I might be starting my research with a very specific question. And to perform that search, I would use the advanced search function. So that's just clicking on the little drop down next to search now and advanced search. And this search allows me to fully customize the search that I'm doing. And this is really where all of that metadata comes into play. So let's say, for example, I'm looking for a case, a criminal law case to do with sentencing. I'm going to leave that as whole document because I want Jade to pick up instances of any variation of the word sentencing. So sentenced, sentence, sentences, etc. And I'm looking for cases where the sentence may have been manifestly excessive. So in quotation marks, but because manifestly excessive is a specific phrase used in sentencing decisions, I want to change that to whole document unstemmed. I'm also looking for the decisions of Chief Justice Bathurst. So I want to set that as judge. And I'm looking for any decisions before, where Chief Justice Bathurst or Justice Bathurst was a judge at first instance or on the Court of Criminal Appeal. So CCA, we'll select that. So quite a specific search. And I run my search and I can see I've got 145 results that match. And you can see where my terms are highlighted there for me. And then once again from here, I can use my tools on the left-hand side to filter. So say for example, I'm looking for cases that deal with juveniles, and filter now. And now I've got 23 results. So advanced search is a great starting point where you do have a really specific question and allows you to review those results there. And again, you've got the option to save that search. So you can set those alerts as well. The search function or advanced search function also gives you a good tool to do a comparative analysis of legislation across jurisdictions, if that's something you're interested in doing, because when we enter our search terms, so we might want to find all legislation that contains the words aggravated assault and I don't know, maybe excessive force. We can, in our collections, we can just click all legislation. And then from there, we can just see a list of legislation from all jurisdictions covered by Jade that contain the words aggravated assault and excessive force. It is picking up the individual instances, and that's because I haven't put my search terms in inverted commas. So that's just something to bear in mind. But looking just at legislation as a last touch point before we look at some of the other personalised features of Jade Professional. Within the Professional platform, when you are looking at legislation, you also have the ability to do a visual history of a piece of legislation. So if we, for example, go to the ASIC Act, within that case trace box, you'll see in the bottom right-hand corner, you've got visual history. So if I click on that link, that's going to give me a helicopter view of this piece of legislation. So I can see how and to what extent it has been amended over time. And if you're just new to Jade, you will have noticed that we like lots of different coloured circles to indicate things. And you can see what each of the different colours means by clicking on the legend. So we've got minor change, major change, etc., etc. An important thing to note about this functionality is that we are limited in how far back in time we can go because, of course, we rely on the electronic versions of the legislation to be able to do this analysis. So generally speaking, we go as far back as 1999 to 2000, depending on the jurisdiction. Also, you can see at the top here, you've got amending instruments that may have affected changes, or you've got the various compilation numbers as well. But if we go, for example, let's go to section 127, confidentiality, I can see there's been quite a few changes here. And if you hover over, you can see how that change was affected. And so if I click on the dot to the far right, this shows me a side-by-side comparison of the section as it is currently and as it was immediately prior to this amendment being affected. And you can see this is done in markup, so you can see text that has changed. So we can see the full stop has gone to a semicolon. in blue, and then in green we can see newly inserted text. So this is picking up the various compilations of the legislation, and I can quickly and easily see those changes. So really useful function. And then if I want to jump into the amending instrument, I can click on the link to the amending instruments and be taken there. But you can also see we give you the date of assent and then the commencement of the various parts of the amending instrument. From here, I can also click into cases considering this section. That's going to be all of the cases which consider that particular provision, not just cases considering the provision as it was at a certain point in time. So as I said, that's part of the legislation functionality that's available in the Jade Professional subscription as well. So as we've seen within Jade, you see yellow highlights to citations that you might be searching for. But as a user, you've also got the ability to highlight and annotate any text within Jade. So this allows you, as I said at the beginning, to create your own online library of content. It goes with you anywhere you have an internet connection, and you have the ability to also share that content with your colleagues. So to annotate my content, I simply highlight the section of text and release the mouse button, and I click on Add Jade Mark, and I can insert my research notes here. And that's full text. I'm not limited to how much text I can put there. Any personalized content like this that you do put in Jade is encrypted, and it's private to you. You can see the setting is private there. And then I can also add a tag to my content. And our session today, given the timing, prohibits us from going into a full detail of how to set up groups to share your content, but you can certainly reach out to myself or Vanessa following the session if you have any questions about that. But the notes that I put in this free text space are like the notes I might write in a margin or on a post-it note or put in a comment in a PDF. And then the tags are the higher level topics I want to allocate to my notes. And so these tags can be anything you want. We don't require you to sort of force your annotations into a set of predetermined tags. So let's say I want to tag this as corporations law. Nothing has appeared in my drop-down list, so I don't currently have that tag in my tag library. So I can hit the enter key and create it. And if you are inclined to color code your research notes, you can change the colored highlights of your tags. So when I click out of this tag, you'll see it jumps across to the right-hand side, and it's still set to private, but that means that anytime I come back to this decision, I will see my notes there, and I can add further notes as well. So I can build on my annotations of a case or a piece of legislation. You'll see there's a share button here. So if you have created a group within Jade, say a group for your practice area because you wish to share your research across with your colleagues, you can click on share and then select the group you wish to share with. And you'll see that changes from private to my group name. And then anyone within that group can add their replies and add their own content as well. So as I say, if you do want further information about creating groups, please feel free to reach out and we're more than happy to help you do that. So personalized content within Jade, being annotations and tags, lives within the My Jade section of the website. And from here, I can go and view my tags. So my tag library by clicking on tags on the left-hand side. And that's going to show me what tags I have within Jade. So I can see today I created the tag corporations law. And then it's showing me the content that I have tagged there. Also in My Jade, you've got the ability to upload documents to Jade. And I touched very briefly at the beginning of the session on the ability you have with Jade Professional to be able to upload documents to check your citations. This is a really popular feature with litigators, but it's not just limited to litigators. It's very useful when uploading submissions, but also too if you're writing letters of advice or drafting precedents which contain citations to cases and or legislation. This gives you a really useful way of being able to update that content in those letters or precedents quickly and easily. With this functionality from a security perspective, the content itself is encrypted 3 times, and we can't pull anything readable down from our server. Anything you upload is private to you. It's not shared with the Jade world at large. But of course, if you have created a group, you do have the ability to share it with your group there. The types of documents you can upload are docx, Word documents, PDF documents, and it also works with Pages if you're a Mac user as well. So to upload a document, I simply click on Choose My File, and then I click Submit. And Jade will then scan my document for citations. So if I click on this document that I've uploaded, you can see that Jade has picked up the citations to my cases and legislation here. And I can click on the pinpoint reference there. Oh. That might be a problem with my document, not Jade. We'll just refresh that. So it will pick up those citations and display that content for you. You'll see here I've used a citation to the federal court reports. Now, notwithstanding that we don't publish those reports in Jade, because we do map those citations to all reported versions of a judgment, we will pick up those other citations as well. And then, oh, looks like we've got a little gremlin in the system. I can bring up those links to sections as well. A really great feature is we can tell you if there's an issue with your citation. So here in paragraph 7, I've got 2 citations that appear in red, which indicates to me that those citations are incorrect. There's a problem with them because Jade cannot confirm it or find it in the database. And just like at the end of every decision you see in Jade or piece of legislation, you get your own citation report. So we can see the cases we've cited, the legislation cited, and then we can see our problematic and unconfirmed citations. So looking here, I've got those 2 citations that appear in red, and then Jade is telling me that I've transposed the citation, I've typed the volume number of the CLRs incorrectly, and it's telling me what to replace my citation with. So once I've finished with that, and I've seen the errors, I would remove this document from Jade, just as a matter of good practice and version control as well. I'd go into my Word document and make my edits there. And then I'd go through the process of re-uploading my amended document, choose File, Submit, and if we bring up our amended document, let's see if these citations work. No. So what I should be seeing here is just that paragraph 32 of Romeo and Northern Territory. So I'll look into what's going on. As I say, I think it's probably an issue with my document as opposed to the system. But you can see here in paragraph 7 that now my citations have turned green. So that means that content is good, it's in Jade, and Jade knows where to look. Now, if I wanted to update or see if this was a letter of advice, see what cases have been handed down in relation to Section 346 of the Fair Work Act since the date I last updated the document, I could click on the link to that and then from the Jade clip, go to the Citator tool and narrow my date range. So then I could see whether or not there were any cases that would change the advice given. So as I said, not just a tool for litigators, but if you are a litigator, another great feature of the document upload function is the ability to create a full list of authorities. So within your citation report, You do that by clicking on View the full list of authorities. And that's because it's not picking up my citations. But if you can imagine, all of those cases that appear in green in my document would be listed out here, and I would be given the citations for each of them. And if I was required to hand up a list of cases cited in tandem with my submissions, I could simply copy and paste that list into a Word document and format it as I need to. You also have the ability to export your document as a PDF with the links embedded. So you could do that and then send it on to a colleague, and they would be able to click directly into the citations there. So I realise we're right on 5:30. I do want to give people an option to the ability to answer questions. But before I open it up to the floor, a couple of other things to be aware of is Jade's sister organisation is the Victorian Reports. We're the authorised publisher of the Victorian Reports. And you can visit our site here at victorianreports.com.au. So where you are looking at a case in Jade that has subsequently been reported in the Victorian Reports, so let's say, this case here, you are able to link through to the reported version of this decision on the Victorian Reports website. Those cases are available on a pay-per-view basis, so you can pay for a case, but there's also monthly and annual subscriptions available there. We do that deep linking through to the New South Wales law reports as well, and their model is quite similar. You can buy individual cases from those reports on a pay-per-view basis, and the Queensland reports are also linked and they're available for free. So having said all of that, are there any questions or comments that anyone has? If you just want to pop them in the chat, I'm happy to answer anything. Or if you've got questions offline, you can get in touch with us. Okay, it doesn't look like it. I'll just give it a couple of minutes to see if anything comes in. And while I'm monitoring chat, a couple of other things to note. We have quite an extensive resource of help information here. So if you need to go back and refresh your memory on creating alerts, you can do that here. And you've also got the coverage information to familiarise yourself with. We've got a list of frequently asked questions as well. And then if you are having any issues or you have any questions regarding your use of the platform, please feel free to reach out to the team by clicking on Talk to an Editor. That's going to connect you with our Jade bot in the first instance, who will ask how they can help. You can always opt to speak to a human, and you will be put in touch with a real life human, you won't see a picture of someone who doesn't exist. So we're there to help you optimize. There you go. It's one of my colleagues now. We're there to help you optimize your use of the platform, and also our users are really our best form of quality assurance. So if you do see a citation that's wrong or a document that's not loading, please feel free to reach out, because we're quite nimble on our feet, and you know, we can fix those things in real time. Oh, thank you, Jane. That's very kind of you. I'm glad that you enjoyed the presentation. Well, I think that wraps it up. We have been recording this session, so if you do want a link to that recording, we can certainly provide it. And as I mentioned, for everyone who's attended, we will send out the How to Use Visualisations document as well. So I'll leave you to get along with the rest of your evening, and thank you again for attending.